Hello, hello! It's your girl, Fly Girl Nina, and welcome to Fly Girl Bartending. Today, I'm going to share with you guys the top 10 essential bar tools that you will need to get started making drinks behind the bar. This video is aimed to help you get familiarized with the types of bar tools that you will be using, either if you're making drinks at home or if you're actually going to bartend behind a real bar. So, without further ado, let's get started. Essential tool number 1 is the Jigger. That is Jigger. I know. The main function of a jigger is to measure the ingredients in your cocktails. This is the most common tool that we use for measuring cocktails. You can also measure cocktails by free pouring, but that's going to be for a separate video. Along with every jigger having a different shape and size, they also have different types of measurements. This one is a Japanese style jigger, and it is 2 ounces on one side and 1 ounce on the bottom. This is one of my personal favorite types of jiggers to use. There's literally a jigger for whatever kind of measurement that you're looking for, so just pick whatever one works best for you. Moving on to cocktail shakers. The main function of shakers are to shake your cocktails. There are many different types of cocktail shakers out there. Here are the top 2 cocktail shakers that you may see when you work behind a bar, specifically in the US. I don't know about other countries. This is a cobbler shaker. The cobbler shaker comes in 3 parts. The bottom part is to hold all the contents of your cocktail. The top part has a built-in strainer, and the cap protects your cocktail while shaking so that it doesn't spill everywhere. Sometimes the cap can also have measurements like a jigger as well. It just depends on which one you have. Apparently the cap does not want to come off right now, so just take my word for it. It has 3 parts, but it's just stuck right now. Using all 3 of the pieces together, you build the cocktail in this, you top it off with a cap, and then you can shake it however you want, and then the cap will come off, and then you can just strain the cocktail into your glass. Next up, we have the Boston shaker. The Boston shaker has 2 parts to it. It has a smaller shaking tin and a larger shaking tin, and then to combine them, you just put it in on a slant, close it, and then you can shake cocktails. You can find Boston shakers with both metal tins, or you can use a tempered pint glass to take place of the smaller metal shaking tin. This type of Boston shaker is also really common to see behind bars. As for me personally, I feel a little bit more sketchy using a pint glass on metal Boston shaker. One, because it's glass, and you never want broken glass behind a bar. That's just one more thing you have to clean up in case it shatters. And you could also risk injuring yourself or your fellow coworkers as well. But it has to be tempered glass because it doesn't shatter like regular glass does. My personal preference is going to be the Boston shaker, and I also prefer the metal on metal versus the glass on metal. Reasons why I love the metal on metal Boston shaker is because it is lighter to hold, which I don't have much upper body strength, so the glass on metal Boston shaker is a lot heavier to hold. It's better conducting for the cold temperatures with the ice in your cocktail. If I wanted to, I could actually double shake, so I could hold it with one hand and then have another Boston shaker on the other and do a double shake that way. And in general, the reason why I like Boston shakers more than cobbler shakers is because there's less pieces to worry about. If somehow you end up losing the cap of your cobbler shaker, you're kind of screwed with using the cobbler shaker, because when you start shaking cocktails, the contents are going to fall out because of the built-in strainer. The Boston shaker is just a lot more versatile in my opinion. I just feel like these are a lot more time sensitive, and I find that most bars typically use a Boston shaker anyway versus a cobbler shaker. Moving on to cocktail strainers. There are 3 types of cocktail strainers. Number 1 is a Hawthorne strainer. A Hawthorne strainer fits perfectly on top of a Boston strainer, but it also can fit perfectly on top of a mixing glass for when you stir cocktails. And it allows you to strain the cocktail into the glass you're serving without getting any of the extra ice in your glass. There are different styles of Hawthorne strainers. The main characteristics of a Hawthorne strainer are it's going to have a metal spiral. The 2 prongs allows the strainer not to fall into your shaker, as well as some holes for your cocktail to flow through. Another type of strainer that helps really well with your Hawthorne strainer is going to be the fine mesh strainer. So if you really don't want like any ice chips in your cocktail, you could just close your gate and then use the fine mesh strainer to pour the cocktail through before it hits your glass, and it'll collect all the tiny little ice chips that you have. The third strainer is called a julep strainer. I actually don't have one on me right now, but I will insert a picture. Julep strainers work best with stirred cocktails, and it fits right into your mixing glass. And it does the same thing like all the other strainers. It holds ice back from getting into your cocktail. You may be asking yourself, what's a mixing glass? These are mixing glasses. You can find metal or glass ones. The main function is to stir cocktails. In my personal opinion, they're not 100% necessary. You can get around without using these for stirred drinks. You can also stir cocktails into a Boston shaker if you really need to. But I will tell you, once you start stirring cocktails in this, it's hard to backtrack. My personal preference are metal mixing glasses, just because, like I said before, glass is glass, and you want to limit as much glass breakage as possible when you work behind a bar. This metal mixing glass is also a double-walled mixing glass, so it retains a lot more of the cold when you want to chill down a cocktail. To help stir cocktails, our next item is a bar spoon. On the bottom end, the scoop is also a measurement. On average, I would say a bar spoon holds about 5 milliliters, but every bar spoon is different, so just know what kind of measurement your bar spoon has. Spirals make it a lot easier to stir a cocktail versus if you were to use a regular spoon that's flat. The bar spoon fits right between your fingers and allows for easier rotation in the mixing glass. The other end of the mixing spoon can be of several different shapes. This one is a weighted bar spoon, so that's why you see this like teardrop shape, because this part is the weight. There's also bar spoons where it's flat on the top, which can allow for layering cocktails, as well as one with a fork, which can be helpful if you want to like pick an olive or something. Next we have the muddler. Main function, it crushes stuff. You can use it to crush fruit to get the juices extracted, or you can use it to press the oils out of herbs and citrus peels. Easy peasy. Next we have citrus squeezers. The main purpose is, quite frankly, in the name. It squeezes citrus. This one is for limes, this one's for lemons, and there's also citrus squeezers for grapefruit. In my personal opinion, you could get away with just having a lemon squeezer because a lime can fit inside of a lemon squeezer. Basically, how to use it, you just flip it up. You put half of a lemon in here with the rounded part facing upwards, and then you just squeeze it out. The juice will fall out of the little holes into whatever container that you want to hold the lemon juice. Next, we have a cutting board and a knife. You definitely are going to need a cutting board and knife to cut your garnishes for your cocktails. You definitely want to make sure that you have a nice sharp knife when you cut garnishes. It's going to be a lot easier to control, and you're not going to be exerting as much force, which could cause you to potentially cut yourself, and nobody wants that. Also keep in mind with wood, it does collect juices. So if you cut like raspberries or blackberries, it's definitely also going to stain your wooden board, which eventually it will come out, but you know, if you want to keep it nice and pretty and brand spanking new looking, then I wouldn't suggest cutting like pomegranates or like blackberries or like random whatever. Another essential item is a pour spout. The purpose of a pour spout is to control the amount of liquor that flows outside of the liquor bottle. A pour spout has 2 holes on it. The smaller air hole reduces the amount of bubbles, which helps the alcohol pour out smoother through the bigger spout. So you stick one of these on your bottles, and then when you pour, all of the liquid is going to come out of the larger hole. There's different types of pour spouts out there. Some establishments have pour spouts that automatically measure out the standard pour for whatever type of bar that you work in. There's also completely rubber pour spouts. If you ask me on my preference, I actually prefer the all rubber pour spouts. I find that 2-piece pour spouts where it's metal and rubber, if it's made poorly, the metal part can pop off, and then you find yourself in the middle of a rush trying to like fix it and put it back together, which causes honestly unnecessary stress. So yeah, so these were the top 10 essential bar tools that every bartender needs. I hope that you found this video interesting and informative, especially if you are planning on working in a professional bar or bartending at home. There's plenty more bar tools that exist out there, and I plan on making future episodes. As far as the start of your bartending journey, these will definitely help you along the way. That is all that I have for you today, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Stay fly!